Welcome to the China Influencer Marketing Podcast. Each week, we speak with top influencers, marketers, and brands who share their experiences, strategies, and tactics for influencer marketing in China. Here's your host, Lauren Hallanan.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 0 of the China Influencer Marketing Podcast. I wanted to make this episode as a way to introduce myself and share why I started this podcast. So first of all, who am I and why am I able to talk about this topic of China influencer marketing? Well, as you might have guessed, my name is Lauren, and I just moved back to the US earlier this year after living in China for over 8 years. My how I ended up in China story is pretty similar to many other people. The first time I went to China was with the IES Study Abroad program during college. After college, I decided to go back to China and I taught English at a university in Changchun. I don't know if any of you know where that is, but it's a third-tier city up in the northeast of China. It is bitter cold there and also a little bit backwards, not as modern. So now when I look back on that experience, I think I was kind of insane for going there and for staying there as long as I did. But being in a, quote, smaller city in China, a less modern city in China, I learned so much from being immersed in the culture there. Metropolitan areas like Beijing and Shanghai are becoming so modernized and westernized and technologically advanced that they are completely different than the way that most Chinese people live. So it was an amazing experience. After that, I moved back to Beijing and continued to study Chinese at the IUP program at Tsinghua University. And after the program ended, I got a job at an educational startup company. It was during that time that I made a decision that opened a ton of doors for me and ended up completely altering the trajectory of my career path. So in 2012, on a whim, I auditioned for a spot on what was then one of China's hottest reality TV shows. It was a dating show. Everyone watched it, young people, older people. It was super, super popular. I just decided it would be a fun thing to try and audition for it. Did not expect that I was going to get on. The show is called 非诚勿扰, by the way. But I went on to film 23 episodes of the show. And as I said, it was a really popular show in China. I was, one of the only foreign girls on the show. And so, for a good year or two after that, I was constantly recognized on the streets of Beijing, or anywhere in China. And it opened my eyes to the entertainment industry, social media, public relations. I learned so much. It was actually while being on the show that I first started using Chinese social media. Back in 2012 and 2013, Weibo was still pretty new. It was really popular at the time. And when I was on the show, some of my fellow contestants told me that I really needed to open a Weibo. They said, if you don't open a Weibo, somebody else is going to open one with your name and pretend to be you. And they can make up stories about you and everything. So they said, you need to open up a Weibo, be sending out stuff so that people know that it's really you. And that way you can kind of control the story, control the information going out about you. So I did that, and I just got so interested in Chinese social media platforms. I think especially because since I was on the show, I got a decent amount of followers right away, and being able to interact with people, and it was just a really cool experience. But I mean, now I really regret not doing more with it. I was so new to just social media in general that I was only occasionally sending out pictures. I didn't do too much with it. And man, I regret that now. I wish I had taken more advantage of that, and really grown my audience back then. But hey, what can I do? We see things differently in retrospect. But anyway, because I got so interested in social media and public relations and the entertainment industry, I decided to switch my career path. And after the show, I left my other job and I started to get offers to do some TV programs. So for a while, I was a Chinese language TV host for Tianjin TV. And I also was a regular guest on several other TV and radio programs. But after a while, I realized that was a pretty hard industry to break into, and it was very unstable. So I decided that instead I was going to go to a corporate job, and I joined an international public relations firm in Beijing. And during my couple years there, I had some really great experiences. I was in the consumer marketing department, and we worked with a lot of entertainment clients in the movie and gaming industries, and did a lot of events and campaigns for them. And we also worked with several tourism clients, and because it was an international company, a lot of these clients were also international clients and big names, and I learned a lot from working with them. But it was also during that time that I just started to feel like I wanted to go out and try some things on my own, try starting my own business, try growing my own influence following as an influencer. So I ended up leaving the PR company with the idea that I was going to create a Taobao store, and that I was going to work on growing my own following as an influencer. So the funny thing is that the Taobao store, I did that for about a year. I learned a lot from it, especially about e-commerce in China and growing an audience for a store. And probably if I had stuck with it for longer, it would have grown. It would have worked out. But what was funny was I started to build this store, and it was for crafting and crafting supplies. And this was right when mobile live streaming was starting to become popular in China, and some of my friends suggested that I try live streaming, me doing some craft projects in order to gain an audience and get people interested in my products. So I tried it out, and I thought it was really cool, really interesting, but it was funny because people loved watching my live stream, but they didn't care about the craft projects, right? They just wanted to interact with me. So I ended up kind of tapering off and getting rid of the Taobao business. And I decided to focus completely on live streaming. So I was live streaming on the platform Meipai. I tried some other platforms, and ultimately I ended up finding a lot of success on the platform Momo. You might have heard about them in the news. They've actually kind of turned their company around with live streaming revenue. So yeah, Momo was a great source of revenue for me. I live streamed on there, and I grew super, super quick. Over about, I think it was 6 months, I got to almost 300,000 followers. I was making a full-time living US standards from live streaming, and things were going really well. But then I ran into, I saw some of the trends that were happening with live streaming, and I knew that I didn't want to be on the Momo platform forever. And so I was trying to build up my audience on some other platforms and transition into some other types of content. And Momo didn't like that. So we had a bit of a disagreement, and they ended up shutting down my account. which really sucked, but yeah, not much I can do about it now. So if you want to learn more about my live streaming experience, I blogged about it on my website, ChinaLivestream.com. So you can hear more about my perspectives on the live streaming industry there. So that kind of brings me up to present. Recently, earlier this year, as I said, my husband and I decided to move back to the US, mainly for health reasons. And so since moving back, I've kind of moved a little bit away from live streaming, and I'm doing lots of other things. I am a freelance consultant helping several clients, mainly in the travel and fashion industries, with their China marketing. I'm also a contributing writer to several sites covering topics related to influencer and social media marketing, e-commerce, and lots of other China-related, business-related topics. And I'm also a travel influencer. So before I came back to the US and as I was kind of tapering out of live streaming a little bit, I started to focus more on my Weibo and my Meipai and travel content. And since I moved back to the US, I've worked with several tourism boards and attractions here in the US to help promote their destination to Chinese travelers. So now that I've shared a little bit about me and my experience in China, I want to explain why I decided to start this podcast. And essentially, I started this podcast because influencer marketing has become extremely important for brands who are looking to be successful in China. Yet, at the same time, there is a lack of information and knowledge and understanding about the industry. So I would like to fix that problem. I think that there is some information out there about influencer marketing, but a lot of it is mainly from a third-person perspective. So here on this podcast, I will interview influencers and marketers to get their firsthand perspectives on influencer marketing, social media, e-commerce, the specific industries they work in, and their predictions for the future of influencer marketing in China, and so much more. So with each interview, I will really try to dig in and get practical tips and insights, which I hope will help those who are trying to work with Chinese influencers or do social media marketing in China. I would love to hear your thoughts and your comments on the content in these episodes. And if you have any suggestions for particular influencers or industries or topics that you would like to see covered in future episodes, please let me know. You can reach me on LinkedIn. You could just search my name, Lauren Hallanan, or you can go to the website, which is ChinaInfluencerMarketing.com, and leave me a message there. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. And if you find the podcast to be useful, then please don't forget to share it with others. I really want to spread this knowledge and information. So again, thank you so much and enjoy.